Would you believe me if I told you a man once bought a clock that could turn back time only for 5 minutes? That's how it began. The rumor. People in the little coastal town of Merrin's Cove whispered about the stranger who arrived one rainy evening, carrying nothing but a weathered briefcase and a look in his eyes that spoke of ghosts. His name was Elias Moore, a man in his late 40s, quiet, polite, and almost invisible. He rented a small apartment above the old bakery, spent mornings by the sea, and visited the antique shop at the end of Willow Street every Friday at exactly 6 o'clock. No one knew what he was looking for until he bought the clock. 1. The purchase. Mrs. Calder, the shopkeeper, remembered the way he stared at the clock like it had called his name. It was a brass carriage clock, its glass face cracked in one corner, the kind of thing most would overlook. But Elias whispered, almost trembling, "How much?" "It doesn't work," she warned. "Stopped at 9:47 years ago." He smiled faintly. "That's fine." He paid in cash, old bills folded carefully, and walked out, the clock tucked beneath his arm. That night, neighbors said they heard faint ticking coming from his apartment, though the shopkeeper had sworn it was broken. 2. The whisper of time. Elias lived alone, and his life was a quiet routine. Coffee, long walks, notes in a journal no one ever saw. But inside that journal were letters to a woman named Claire. Each entry began the same way. "Claire, if I could go back, I would have stayed." He wrote them as if she might still read them, as if the words could cross time. The next Friday, he opened the clock's back, cleaned the gears, and found something strange, a small inscription etched inside the brass. "Time is a promise only the heart can keep." That night, the clock began to tick again. And at precisely 9:47, the world shifted. 5 minutes. Elias was no longer in his dim apartment. He was standing in a hospital corridor, white walls, antiseptic air, the faint sound of a heart monitor. Down the hall, he saw her. Claire. She was younger, alive, sitting in the waiting room reading the same book she'd had the night she died. "Claire," his voice cracked. She looked up, smiled faintly, but didn't seem to recognize him. "Do I know you?" The clock in his pocket ticked softly. He had 5 minutes. He wanted to tell her everything, to beg forgiveness for the fight, for the car ride that ended with him unhurt and her gone. But the words froze in his throat. Instead, he simply said, "You should go home early tonight. The rain's getting worse." She laughed softly the way she used to. "You sound like my husband." He managed a trembling smile. "He must love you very much." Her gaze softened. "He does." And then the clock chimed once, 9:52, and everything went dark. 4. The consequence. When Elias woke, he was back in his apartment, heart pounding, the clock silent again. He rushed to his journal. Her letters were still there, but one page had changed. "I made it home early tonight." The rain stopped. "You were right." His hands shook. The ink was hers, her handwriting. He didn't sleep that night. He simply stared at the clock, wondering what he'd done or undone. The next day, he walked to the pier where the sea met the morning fog and whispered, "If I can go back again, just once more." 5. The stranger returns. Weeks passed. Elias grew thinner, quieter, like a man waiting for something only he could hear. Then one stormy night, a boy knocked on his door. "You're Elias Moore?" the boy asked. "You left this at the bakery." It was the clock. But it looked different, older, heavier, as if time itself had passed through it. When Elias opened it, the inscription had changed. Every gift has a price. He turned it over. Inside was a key he'd never seen before. He hesitated, then wound the clock. 9:47. Tick, 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 6. The second return. He was back. Same hospital. But this time, Claire looked right at him. "You came back," she whispered. "You remember?" he gasped. Tears filled her eyes. "I don't know how, but yes. You told me to go home. I did. The crash never happened. But then," she looked down, "you died instead." Elias froze. The floor beneath him seemed to fade. He realized what the clock had done. Time hadn't given him back Claire. It had traded places. He was the one who died that night. This, whatever he was now, was only what remained. An echo. 7. The choice. Claire reached for him, but her hand passed through his. "Elias," she sobbed. "Why are you here?" He looked at her, aching. "To say goodbye properly." The clock chimed once more. 9:52. He felt himself fading, the world blurring into white. "I loved you," she whispered. "I still do," he said. "But it's time." 9? The ending. No one ever saw Elias Moore again. But some nights, when the sea fog rolls over Merrin's Cove, people say they hear a clock ticking faintly in the air, always at 9:47. And sometimes, if you stand by the window just long enough, you might hear a voice whisper, "Would you trade 5 minutes to make things right?"